What is up, everybody? My name is Josh. I'm the fantasy football buff. I'm joined, as always, with my brother from another mother, Noah. Let's go.
Can't read it. Let's go.
And today, we are going to be talking about the most polarizing players in Dynasty right now. Players where your season's over, you're looking at your roster, and you don't know what to do with them. You don't know where they should be ranked. We're going to be talking about all those top-tier guys whose value is all over the place. So without further ado, let's get it. Like I said, guys, today we're going to be talking about the top most polarizing players right now in Dynasty. The Dynasty community just doesn't really know how to rank these guys. They're all over the place. And what's difficult about Dynasty, it's tough to say where their value should be. So we're going to go through at least, I think, 7 or 8 other guys in depth. And then we're going to go through and just talk about as many players as we can and where we think they should be valued going into the offseason in Dynasty. But first, we got to start off with a thank you, guys. We have to. We just passed 500 views on the sleepers video. So clearly, y'all like sleepers. So we're going to be talking much more about sleepers down the road. But it was crazy, man. That's just the fact.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, just the fact that we got 500, it blows my mind, man. I remember a couple months ago where we were at like 40 subscribers, and we're getting close to 100. I know we're not even close to where we're gonna get eventually, but I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped. Just big thank you, guys. That all being said,
Hey,
yeah, go for it.
with that being said, y'all are our OGs. If you're watching now, you're the OGs. So we real recognize real.
Hell yeah, man. We'll remember you guys when we're famous for sure. You can say we were there. We were there before these guys got huge, man. But first, we have to celebrate. We have to talk because we need to talk about the GOAT. We need to talk about the Dynasty RB1. That's right. My boy Jonathan Taylor, baby, had the breakout game that we all called hands down Dynasty RB1. I will not accept any hate. I've got so much hate over all my Jonathan Taylor takes. When everyone was dropping him, everyone was selling him, I said, guys, give the man some time. He's 21 years old. This past week, he was the RB2 on the week. The week before, he was the RB5 on the week. And he's doing all of this with seeing literally 50% of the snaps. Right? He's getting carries, he's getting targets, but he's only seeing 50% of the snaps. He's 21 years old, and you would have a really hard time convincing me that Jonathan Taylor's not a top 8 Dynasty running back right now. I mean, you look at him again, 21 years old, freak athlete, getting it done on limited snaps. And I love Frank Reich's offense. I love that offensive line. And I'm really excited to see what they do with the quarterback situation. Phillip Rivers, he's not killing their team right now. He's still moving the ball around. But once Paris Campbell comes back next season and is healthy, once maybe the Colts draft a player, maybe Matt Stafford, man, the guy we talked about, maybe he gets traded to the Colts. Maybe Carson Wentz gets put on the Colts. Taylor's value will only continue to increase. If they can keep pushing the ball down, guys, look out, man. We have the next Derrick Henry. I'm telling you, we're just going to rename this page the Jonathan Taylor fan page, man. Do you have any hate? Do you have any shadows to cloud on my love for Jonathan Taylor? Because I'm ready to fight anybody, man.
No. I mean, what do you expect, man? You're running behind a top 3 offensive line in the NFL. You run a 4.39 40, but you're not built like at 5'10", 185. You're a truck, and it was a matter of time. Again, that's what people get so impatient about these rookies, and it blows my mind. But as much as it's like, oh, physically he's great, it's like, dude, mentally you got to understand what's going on before you can do it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't do calculus without knowing how to do algebra.
Yeah,
and sometimes you just got to figure out the step by step to be able to get to where you want to be. So, no, he's primed to be a top. I mean, he's a Dynasty startup right now. I mean, I mean, you got to be taking him in at the latest top 15 you know, depending on how you want to build your team. But I mean, some people would argue top 8, some people argue top 5. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. And dude, my love for Jonathan Taylor, I cannot even put into words, and I love to see him come back. And I get it, right? He played a weak offense, he played a weak defense against the Raiders last week against the Texans. He plays the Texans against next week as well, so he'll probably go off again. But one thing that he was being so highly criticized for was his vision, right? That he wasn't seeing the holes, he wasn't attacking them. And I mean, he proved everything to me against that Raiders game. He's going to continue to develop. So even if Marlon Mack does come back off an Achilles injury after and they have to re-sign him, right? Because he's a free agent going into next season. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me, right? Jonathan Taylor's going to control that backfield just how he does now. I mean, Nyheim Hines is getting carries and targets here and there, but Jordan Wilkins is pretty much gone. He's not getting any looks anymore because Jonathan Taylor. Why would you? When Jonathan Taylor's balling out. So that's my love for Jonathan Taylor, guys. Never forget about it. Let's move into some of the polarizing players, though, because we could argue that Jonathan Taylor is polarizing. But let's talk about someone in particular that has kind of divided the fantasy community, who just balled out a couple nights ago. And for everyone watching, the way we're going to do this is I'm going to talk about a player. I'm going to give you their backstory, their career arc, and why they're so polarizing right now. Give either side of the argument. And Noah here has his whiteboard, and he's going to break down on the spectrum whether he believes that his confidence level in them, right? They're polarizing right now because they have high upside, but also likely a very low floor. And he's going to break down his confidence in them moving forward because, like I said, statistically speaking, you probably didn't make your playoffs, right? The vast majority of the people who are watching YouTube right now, chances are, just statistically speaking, didn't make their playoffs, looking towards next season, looking towards the offseason to see what they should do. So let's kick it off with none other than Lamar Jackson. Former reigning MVP Lamar Jackson coming off a poop gate against the Browns, where he left the game to take a dump, came back and threw a 70-yard touchdown, whatever it was, on 4th and 2nd to win the game. Anyways, let's talk about Lamar Jackson from a Dynasty perspective real quick. Right, he was a former first-round pick in 2018 in the NFL draft. At the very end of the NFL draft, the Ravens traded up to pick him, and he was highly criticized coming out of college because of his passing ability or lack thereof. Right, his rookie season, he comes in, starts as of week 11, and from week 11 on, he only averages 22 pass attempts per game. Right, so he's not passing the ball up, but he's running it like crazy. Then his 2019 MVP season that we all remember, the man averaged 28 fantasy points per game. The second place quarterback behind him in 2019 was Deshaun Watson with 22. He was averaging 6 more points per week. It was insane. Only one of the 15 games that he played where he scored under 20 points. There was a single game where he scored under 20 points in fantasy last year. 46% of his games were over 30 points. The man was an absolute league winner. And, because he was getting it done on the ground, man, he was running 11.7 times per game. That was his average, with an 80 rushing yard average per game. He ended up rushing for 7 touchdowns on the season. And so, that's 11 points. That's 8 points right there, a baseline. When your quarterback can rush like that, that's huge. And he was incredibly efficient in the pass game as well. He threw for 36 touchdowns, which led the league, but was 26th in pass attempts. Right, so there was not a lot of volume throwing the ball. 26 out of 32 quarterbacks, right? He was pretty low, but yet still led the league in pass attempts, right? And I remember in our past startup draft, this past offseason, I'm sitting there in our 2-quarterback league, and I sat there for a while because I couldn't decide between picking Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. I really did sit there and had a hard time debating between the two. And in hindsight, I'm glad I went with Mahomes. Right, because in 2021, Lamar Jackson's still producing. He's the quarterback 12 on the season, but 5 of his 11 games he played so far has been under 20 points. We're not seeing that same ceiling that we saw last season. He's averaging 26 pass attempts, and he's currently 19th in the league in passing touchdowns. So we're seeing that passing efficiency come down. He's still running the ball 10 carries per game. He's averaging 60 yards per game. So it's that passing efficiency that really came down. But the problem, at least, that the reason that people are so worried about Lamar Jackson, the reason he's so highly criticized, is he's not looking great as a passer. And the stats are backing that up, right? He's 11th right now in interceptable passes. He's 7th amongst all quarterbacks in danger plays, right, where he put the ball and a risk of getting turned over. He's 29th in accuracy. He's 28th in true completion percentage, and he's 29th in catchable pass rate. So when he does pass the ball, his poor wide receivers aren't really having a chance to even – I can't tell you how many times as the Hollywood Brown owner I've seen the ball sail over their heads. So, I mean, we cannot discredit his MVP season. We cannot discredit the fact that he was the hands-down quarterback one last year. He's only 23 years old. He has an entire organization built around him, an entire offense built around him. He's still a top-tier quarterback when it comes to rushing stats. He's just simply not getting it done as a passer. So, no, I'm going to pass this to you, man. My first question to you before we rank him is, one, if the roster stays exactly how it is, right? If there's no additions, if they don't move anything, right? If exactly how it is going into 21, do you think with the weapons he has, do you think Lamar Jackson can ever bounce back to his MVP season and be that hands-down fantasy quarterback one again?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you have to talk about the touchdown regression that was naturally going to occur when you're, 27th in pass attempts, but you lead the league in touchdown passes. I mean, that itself, I mean, statistics are going to even out. The equilibrium is going to happen. You're not going to – that's not sustainable, you know?
Yeah.
That in and of itself is not sustainable. But I'm it's my top guy, so he's at the top of my list and the bottom of my list in terms of confidence right now on my board. But to stay the exact same, not add any offensive, like you're saying, let's say they go only defense.
Yep, exactly.
And if they went only, they went only defense, I'd probably have him as like maybe QB8, QB9.
Okay, for Dynasty, you're saying. Or going into 2021?
I was saying just for next year.
Okay, just for next year.
For Dynasty startup, though, he's still a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, you have to, because of the rushing ability, because what he's done. And then because of this next point, man, there are many wide receivers right now in this upcoming free agency. And the Baltimore Ravens, they still have a decent amount of cap space, man. They're 11th in projected cap space going into next season. So let's say hypothetically they bring in a Chris Godwin, right? They bring in an Alvin Robinson. They bring in Kenny Golladay, a big dude that he can just chuck it up to in the end zone. How high, as soon as they make that acquisition, how high would you rank Lamar Jackson in Dynasty?
Third.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Who would be we have Patrick Mahomes, of course. Who would be the second guy ahead of him?
I mean, at this point in time, I still have to take Kyler Murray.
Okay.
That's just because he has DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. In my opinion.
And I go.
Yeah. No, go ahead. In my opinion, between his rushing ability, between all the other weapons there, and then add an Allen Robinson or someone of that caliber to that team, dude, like you and I've talked about, how are you going to stop that offense? He has to be top 2. At least for that's how I see it. If you get one more weapon,
it all depends on what they do with the game plan, because it's like at that point, it's, do you believe in Greg Roman or do you believe in Cliff Kingsbury? That's legitimately all it comes down to, in my opinion. But I will say the nod has to go to Baltimore, at least right now, because they have, when Ronnie Stanley comes back, they have a better offensive line at this point in time than Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And
so I can see why you would rank Lamar going into next season as number 2.
Yeah, if he gets that elite wide receiver, he needs that, right? And we'll lead this into our next conversation. But to wrap up Lamar Jackson right now, what is your confidence level in him moving forward, right? 1 from 10, 1 being like, oh, man, like his value is so sporadic. I see him leaning more towards his floor. Or 10 being the very top. He is someone that you should acquire right now, buy low kind of caliber. 1 to 10, where would you put him? Always breaking out the calendar. I love it. Breaking out the whiteboard.
And I will say this is fluid depending on who he brings to the board. So the board will evolve as we go.
Absolutely. And so it's confidence level, right? Let's see.
It's a 9.
9 out of 10. I like it. So you're pretty confident. So would you say, I mean, I can make the argument that Lamar right now is a buy low in Dynasty formats.
I think going into this offseason, you will be able to get Lamar. It's like the lowest price you'll be able to get Lamar.
Here's a really interesting question for you, right? And I guess, this is a tough one, right? This is a tough one, or maybe it'll be easy for you. if you had to decide right now today, not knowing what they're going to do with the offense, not know what they're going to do with their offensive weapons, who would you rather take in a trade right now? Lamar Jackson in a 2-quarterback dynasty league, or the 101 2021 rookie draft pick? So pretty much, would you take Lamar Jackson or probably Trevor Lawrence?
Well, Well, you're taking Trevor Lawrence on the Jets, so
yeah, it's true. There might not be a right answer, right? There might not be a right answer.
My team, I think I would take Lamar.
Yeah, I agree with you.
For my team, I would take Lamar.
Yeah.
I mean, because I have the chance to be with the Ravens, J.K. Dobbins, assuming I know the Ravens are going to get a piece. Whether it works out or not, I don't know. But they're going to get at least an opportunity to get a piece. Solid tight end. Yep. I'll take Lamar.
I like it, man. I would have done the same thing. I would have done the same thing. Thanks, man. I would have done the same thing. Let's talk about the next guy. So we had Lamar Jackson, confidence 9. Guys, go buy low on him. Right now, people are really, really low on Lamar Jackson, so he's actually someone I would try to acquire. Next is his technical wide receiver 1 in that offense, and it's Marquise Hollywood Brown, right? Hollywood Brown is 23 years old, had Lisfranc surgery in 2018, did not participate in the combine, but still was taken as the wide receiver 1 in the 2019 draft by the Ravens. And he plays 2019 with screws in his foot, right? Like, he's still recovering from that injury. He's not at 100%. And man, there was a lot of off-season hype about Hollywood coming back. There's these videos about him gaining all this muscle, of him being more explosive without the screws in his foot. And I'll break it down pretty simple for you guys. The pros is that he plays on an incredibly powerful offense. They have invested the draft capital in him, and he has the physical ability, right? He's no longer injured. He's incredibly fast. He's incredibly shifty, right? But he is currently ranked outside of, or no, he's not currently ranked. He's currently at, I think it's outside the top 45 on the season in wide receivers right now on the 2020 fantasy season. He's outside the top 45. He's averaging around 10 points per game. And for me personally, it all has everything to do about the targets he's seeing, right? 1, it's the quality of targets. 2, it's the quantity of targets. Right now, he is seeing a 23% target share on that team. 23% target share. That's amazing, right? You love to see that for your wide receivers. But the problem is on such a pass-heavy offense, that's only translating to 6.2 targets per game, right? So he's not seeing a crazy amount of targets. He is 5th in the league in deep targets, so you do like to see that. But the quality of the targets, like we just talked about Lamar Jackson, just isn't there, man. Hollywood Brown is currently ranked 97th in the league in catchable targets, right? He is seeing only 67% of his targets are catchable. Only 67. So if he's only seeing 6 targets per game and only about 2/3 of those are even catchable, then really he's only seeing about, 4 actual targets per game. And of course, his catch rate is 55% because you have to take into consideration the quality of targets he's seeing. So I'm going to ask you a similar question what I asked you before. Is, hypothetically speaking, going into this offseason, let's say whatever happens, and the Ravens aren't able to add an additional piece, right? They're not able to add someone to take away the defense's attention from. Do you see a world where with this roster, can Hollywood Brown be the wide receiver 1 on this team as he is now and be a wide receiver 2 or better in Dynasty or in fantasy, just in fantasy in general, without changing up the roster? You don't see it. Yeah. There's not I mean, maybe, again, Lamar's on his, 3rd season? Maybe he improves as a passer. But I'm with you, man. I have a hard time seeing it.
It's just that, like I've said, it's like that offense has all the pieces, but you can't think of it like this. It's like you got bingo. Yeah. You're playing bingo and you're trying to go across and you're trying to get the free space. But right now, you don't get the free space, and you need to put in a big receiver there, and that's all you're missing. It's like, dude, you got a great bingo score. You can have bingo, twice, 4 times, but you're missing that piece in the middle. And right now, that piece in the middle is just too big for me, for that offense to take Hollywood that much, because Hollywood too small, doesn't have a diverse enough amount of route. His route tree is not diverse enough for me to be saying he is just not a number 1 receiver. He was good at Oklahoma. He's playing next to CeeDee Lamb. Yeah. There was attention elsewhere, and That's
So
just how I feel.
here's the question for you, man, because we just talked about Hollywood's targets, right? Let's say they add the quality of targets. Let's say they add a Godwin and Allen Robinson, right? Which would, like, how do you stop this offense if they do that? Which I hope they do. It'd be so much fun to watch. What does this mean for the quantity of targets that Hollywood Brown would see? Because, okay, maybe the quality would get better. The defense switches up. He'll catch more deep balls probably. But again, Lamar's he's not gonna throw more than 30 times per game, right? On an average week, he's probably gonna average, and maybe in the like 30. So how would you see that, right? Because I have, as the Hollywood owner, I have a hard time seeing the upside people are talking about.
For me, here's the thing: if you get another bona fide receiver, let's just say Kenny Golladay. You know what? Let's go Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin worked really well there.
Oh yeah.
Let's say Chris Godwin. And obviously, he's the number one receiving threat.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, all right, next receiving threat, Mark Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
Still got to respect Mark Andrews in the middle. Hollywood Brown becomes a side actor. So he becomes what Curtis Samuel is doing now for the Panthers. He becomes you're hoping his targets are extremely efficient.
Yeah.
And I would use Hollywood Brown in many other ways because you have good receivers elsewhere. I'm using Hollywood Brown on jet sweeps. I'm using Hollywood Brown as decoys on jet sweeps. I'm using Hollywood Brown on screens where you're having your big receivers block. I'm using Hollywood Brown when you motion him out of the backfield, you get him one-on-one with a linebacker or with a safety, and you go beat him over the top, go get it. You know, that's how I want to use Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
But that's not how the Ravens use Hollywood Brown. You can't use Hollywood Brown as a traditional receiver. He's not a traditional receiver. He's not going to go out there and just block and then catch a slant and moss people. It's just, that's not what you drafted. If you wanted to do that, draft DK Metcalf.
Oh my gosh, yeah, seriously. The fact that he was drafted before DK, that whole any wide receiver draft before DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, it just blows my mind, man.
So that's how I feel, you know. But if you add that bingo piece, dude, Hollywood Brown becomes the second or third. It becomes Hollywood, because when you're scheming against the Ravens, and let's say they have a Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, just a guy that's going to go up and get the ball. Absolutely. You got to scheme against their run game first and foremost, because they're coming at you. J.K. Dobbins, who knows if they do Gus Edwards, who knows if Marquise comes back, but whatever. That ground game, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, first of all. Secondly, pass attack, Kenny Golladay, ex-receiver, we'll say, plus Mark Andrews. It's like, okay, big bodies, got to defend those. And then it's just like, all right, but Hollywood Brown, dude, that dude can score. He turns lightning into a bottle, man. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I mean, Hollywood Brown has got to figure out how to transition his game to be more like Tyreek Hill. Yeah. Oh, that's a great. That's the kind of player you draft. You're trying to draft a Tyreek Hill, but I think I like Tyreek Hill obviously more than Hollywood Brown. Yeah, yeah. That's the kind of role you need to play for, like, dude. Sometimes Tyreek Hill just takes a jet sweep, and it just terrifies defenses, because no matter what, you get sideways, your linebackers have to go, because even if it's a fake, the fact that Tyreek could still get the ball, it's like, that's so scary. Because Lamar breaks off a 25-yard run. Dude, because one hesitation for Tyreek Hill around the edge, and he's gone. He's gone. But the thing is if you do that and you get Marquise Brown going across the formation, and it's a fake, all of a sudden you just open up the other side of the field, because you got J.K. Dobbins to get the ball to, you got Lamar Jackson to run the ball to, or you throw it up to your big receiver, or you got Mark Andrews in the middle. I mean, like, dude, this offense becomes, like, astronomically good. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and from an NFL perspective, I would be terrified to be the opposing defense. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, fantasy-wise, I don't know who's going to get the rock. Marquise Brown becomes a big boomer bust player. Absolutely. But good Lord. Good Lord. He's an awesome boomer. It's like he's like Will Fuller when DeAndre Hopkins was still, it's like Will Fuller was out because of injuries, but like Marquise Brown, that's how I see it, though. Yeah, Marquise Brown's a huge guy to have. I think you just hit it, man. I think he's going to be boomer bust, where he's going to have a really low floor, but have even more long touchdowns. And that's my concern, right? That's my concern, is that the Tyreek Hill, the Curtis Samuels of the world, they both have better pass quarterbacks throwing to them in theory, right? Definitely Tyreek Hill does. And they both have more volume on that offense as a whole, right? That offense is passing more. So you have now the third receiving option in a run-first team. I just have a hard time seeing what that would translate to fantasy outside of
really high ceilings and really low floors. So, but we'll see, man. I hope he proves me wrong. As the owner, I don't know what I could trade Hollywood Brown for right now.
Third round pick from me.
Okay, I might consider that. We have an active trade discussion on the. I'll consider it, man. With this,
I rightfully so.
I would think about it. We can get maybe I'll land Kadarius Toney, and then we'll have a whole different conversation. But that's for another day, guys. All right, let's move. Wait, so let's wrap it up real fast. Hollywood Brown, 1 from 10. What is your confidence in him moving forward as a dynasty asset? Because I don't know if I'm over 5, man. Right now, I'm probably in like the 4 range.
This is extreme contingency on who they bring in.
Yeah, and this is exclusively fantasy, right? It's exclusively fantasy for your dynasty league, right? This is how you from a dynasty. Yeah. 5, Hollywood Brown. Yep. I think that's where I'm at too, man. I think I'd probably be more at 4, but yeah.
I'm at a 4 if it stays the same.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm at a 7, depending on who they bring in. 7 is my ceiling.
Interesting. Because you think we'll see more boom games if they bring in Chris Godwin?
Dude, how do you defend it? How do you defend it?
I don't know, man.
I
really don't know.
And at that point, it comes down to Greg Roman, their offense coordinator. It's like if you have all this talent on the offense and you're not putting up points and you're struggling like you are this season, find the door.
Yeah,
dude.
Seriously.
You know, and honestly, sometimes I think like, all right, it is Harbaugh. One coach is at Michigan, one coach is at Ravens. I'm like, dude, Harbaugh at Michigan's about to get canned.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, dude, that'd be fun to see the brothers coach together, have an offensive coordinator under Harbaugh. You know, the other one runs the defense.
Yeah, exactly.
See how it goes. It'd be fun. Yeah, I don't know, just something I thought about the other night. But anyways.
That would be funny. Get the brother hookup, the brother coaching staff right there. I don't think we've ever saw. Yeah, we definitely.
It's like Jay Gruden and John Gruden. You know.
Yeah.
Jay Gruden becoming his offensive coordinator next year or something. You know.
Yeah, seriously,
that'd be interesting. Would be interesting, right? All right. Yeah. Anyways.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk about the net. Let's talk about our third player here. Polarizing is kind of this is someone I wanted to throw on the list because I need to talk about this, and it's Russell Wilson, right? Some people might yell at me for this. I've had people, I even personally still see him as at least a top 5 dynasty quarterback. But talent-wise, the man's amazing, right? From a talent perspective, he's arguably one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the league from a talent perspective, right? When it comes to throwing the ball and just being able to win games. Russell Wilson is one of the best. He's only 32 years old, which is young for a quarterback nowadays. He is currently 1 year in on a 4-year, $140 million contract, so he's got the contract behind him. And the reality is, man, he's never finished outside of the top 10 as a fantasy quarterback since 2013. And so he's consistent. He's an amazing talent. He has fantastic receiving weapons around him. But my only concern for Russell Wilson is he has this career arc, and from a fantasy perspective, of being incredibly boom bust, right? Incredibly boom bust. And it's all comes down to his pass attempts and his very, very high efficiency, right? This past season, or this current season, 2020, in weeks 1 through 9, he was the undisputed quarterback 2 for that first 2.5 months of the season, and he was averaging 29 points per game. That's a week winner right there. If you have a quarterback who's averaging 29 points a game, he's winning you weeks. From that point on, weeks 10 through 14, he's not even a top 12 quarterback. Right now, his attempts were slightly down, but it's his touchdown efficiency that dropped. During those first 8 weeks, he averaged 3.5 touchdowns per game. So he almost threw 4 touchdowns per game. The past 5 weeks, he's down to 1.6, right? And that's including a 4-touchdown game against the Jets this past weekend. So his touchdowns are up and down, and this has been a trend throughout his career, right? Now, he only has 3 career seasons where he's thrown the ball over 500 times. Of course, that's not including this year. 2019, technically, he was the quarterback 4 on the season, but he scored 20 points or less in 68% of his games. So he finishes the QB4, but had so many blow-up games that the 68% of the games where he was kind of mediocre, it overshadowed that, right? 2018, he was the quarterback 9 on the season, but only scored over 20 points 43% of the time, less than 50% of the time did he crack that 20-point line, and he was still a top 10 quarterback. So, I mean, people were screaming it this past offseason, let Russ cook, right? Let him throw the ball. They used to be a run-first team. And throughout the first half of this season, it really, really looked like it. And if they continue to let Russ cook with Tyler Lockett, with DK Metcalf, then the man is undisputed top 3 quarterback on a week-to-week basis and should be a top 3 dynasty quarterback. But I mean, maybe they don't have him cook, man. Like, maybe he might be a little overvalued now. Maybe Pete Carroll's sitting there chomping on his chewing gum and says, you know, we want to get back to our basics. We're going to stock up the defense this offseason, and we're going to get back to our run-first team like he wanted to be, like Pete Carroll's always been since he's been with or pretty much it has always been with the Seahawks. So my question to you is this, right? For you, is Russell Wilson a locked and loaded top 4 dynasty quarterback? And this is even a
how am I looking, like in a startup draft or
in a startup draft? Let's do a startup
or are you
after the NFL draft. A startup draft after. So Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, all those guys are currently there with and I get he's amazing weapons, and he has a crazy high ceiling in fantasy. But should he still be, because of his ups and downs and the usage percentage, should he be a locked-in top 4 dynasty quarterback? Oh man, the suspense is building. I'm gonna roll in this. What are you thinking? What do you think? Work me through your thoughts here.
Oh man,
it's tough. It's tough, and regardless, people are going to yell at me for this because of how good he is. Or if you own Russell Wilson, you'll know that he has a lot of mediocre games where he's putting up 12. 15.
It's not the mediocre games that's holding me back. It's age.
Age, okay, 32 years
because,
old. Yeah.
Let me show you. I don't know their ages, but I know they're under 26, under 26, under 26, under 26, over 30. This is how it works out.
Yeah.
Mahomes, Kyler. This is fluid. This is just, but Mahomes, Kyler, Lamar, Deshaun Watson.
Okay. Yeah. Can you raise it a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Russell Wilson, but also Josh Allen, under 30. So it's like, unless if you're building a team that's like taking all the superstars and is not worried about winning next year or like over the next 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Then it's awesome. Like Russ is awesome. I mean, confidence wise, I have him at a 10. I have no issues with the way he plays. I have no issues with a boomer bust, because do you know how many wins that buys you when he's averaging that many points, but he still is like flirts with like the 14, 15, 16 games, but there's some games where he throws 40.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, come on. Like, I would love to have that on my team. And I do. I have Kyler Murray. I get to experience that. But like to have 2 of those, and if they go off on the same week or they trade off weeks, and not every week can be your week.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's not true. Josh Allen, solid. Herbert, solid. Things like that. Mahomes, solid.
Yeah.
Herbert or Mahomes is good for like a solid 22 almost every week.
Yeah.
But the only thing that holds me back in that conversation for Dynasty is age.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's other than that, not at all. I mean, do you think, and this is what I put down to, do you think, what was his name? But Doug Baldwin and Curse and all those receivers that he played with earlier in his career are better than Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf combo, plus if they bring in a third?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, we're getting vet Russ with the best receivers. You know how Aaron Rodgers is absolutely booming this year, but last year he was kind of like, eh. Yeah. That's what we're seeing. And I will say, the Seahawks start slow every single year. Every single year. This is the first year the Seahawks have not started slow.
Yeah, it was their defense that started slow. Their offense was cooking.
But there's always Seahawks, Pete Carroll's teams are always going to struggle for 3, 4, 5 games in a row
Yeah.
Where it's just like, what is the Seahawks team? And it's just because they're trying to figure themselves out for whatever reason. But if you go back and look, every single year, they just start slow. In terms of wins and losses, they just start slow. And then they somehow are like, oh, yeah, Seahawks are in the playoffs. And then they get hot right at the playoffs. The playoffs are all about who's hot at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks are like, they're like, we can't stay hot all season, so we got to like dive it down so we can get hot for the playoffs later on, because that's what the NFL is about, winning in the playoffs. So
yeah,
I have, if you say Russ is like struggling and you say Russ, 14, 15 points, like as a 2-quarterback dynasty owner, I would take, I offered the Russell Wilson owner, I offered him Saquon for Russell Wilson, his first.
Yeah.
And he really considered it.
Yeah.
And he threw out some garbage, like Saquon for like 3 players that don't amount to anything. And I'm like, dude, what is that going to do for my team? I go, my team is built on depth. I don't need depth. You need depth.
Yeah.
So age-wise is the only reason, like, because Mahomes is number 1 by far. I'm looking at my own board. Mahomes is number 1 by far. But if you're looking for just in the next year, Aaron Rodgers is top 5. Deshaun Watson is still top 5. Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is still top 5.
Okay.
And year in, year out, a lot of it's just going to depend on how tough is your schedule.
Yeah.
Do you get to play?
It really depends. For me, at least, when it comes to Russell Wilson, dude, it has to be the quality of their defense, because right now their defense is probably the worst that it's ever been. And then consequently comes to his pass attempts. Right, I really do. You and I just talked about Lamar Jackson, and again, Russell Wilson is leagues better than Lamar Jackson is when it comes to a passer. But we're in the same predicament where, he is throwing way more touchdowns than what's the term here? He's being way more efficient for what his pass attempts should amount to per league average. Right, he's throwing a much higher touchdown rate than the average quarterback. Well, now, when you have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and you're Russell Wilson, you're going to throw a lot more touchdowns than the average quarterback in the league. I understand that. I'm just saying, even in this season, we've seen that efficiency sway back and forth. And that's why I have a hard time, from a dynasty perspective, you add in his age, which I'm not too concerned about, because quarterbacks are being legitimate till their late 30s, early 40s nowadays when it comes to fantasy. I think when it comes to those tiers, and you have like a Lamar Jackson over here, a Patrick Mahomes over here, and you have, let's say, Dak Prescott even, or let's say Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, this second tier of guys who have upside, who are in that age range, but don't have everything locked down to meet Patrick Mahomes yet. I personally think Russell Wilson's a little bit closer to that second tier than he is that top tier from a dynasty perspective. Right, we can talk redraft, we can talk about next season, but at least from Dynasty, I think he's closer to second tier than he is first tier for me.
But I still have him in my top tier.
Okay, yeah. No, sure.
Like, I don't know, it's just like, you start Russell Wilson, do you really worry about it? Like, yeah, sometimes game flow doesn't go your way, but also you got to think of it like this, like, before, the Seahawks were known as Chris Carson's going to run the ball.
Yeah.
That's going to be their bet. That's going to be their bread and butter. They don't really have a bona fide running back this year because all teams are worried about the pass because they got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. When you game plan against the Seahawks, you're like, dude, they're going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, we got to stop them. So it's like, of course they're going to start running. That's how defense adjusts. But then you start slashing them up. Rashad Penny comes back this upcoming week, and they're going to start slashing people. Thank you. Thank you.
For those watching, in our Dynasty League, I was quarterback needy. I have Dak Prescott, and I had to drop. The only play I could drop was Rashad Penny for Andy Dalton. Now, Andy Dalton's not even on my team anymore, and Rashad Penny is now back, former first-round pick, on the Seahawks stacked roster, and Noah immediately picked him up, and he's never going to let me forget about it. This is
never. Well, the thing is, for the viewers, I had been looking for maybe 10 days how and what I could trade Josh for him, and then I woke up one morning and he was just on the waiver. I was like, this is beautiful. I could not have asked for anything better, and then I don't think anyone bid for him.
No, I
think it was just me, and I was like, dude, are you serious? I was like, this is awesome.
Oh, man. Anyways. Okay, so let's going back to Russell Wilson, 1 to 10 confidence level. Is Russ a top 10? Yeah, 10, hands down. Twice on every day of the
That
week.
moves.
Twice on Sunday.
He getting a 10 moves Lamar down to a 7
Okay.
on this rank, and Hollywood down to a 3.
Okay, so Russ coming into this confidence ranking bumped everybody down.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes.
All right, man. Let's talk about someone next who is a little bit more polarizing, a guy that we probably are going to find a little bit more of a difficult time to talk such high words about, and that's Odell Beckham Jr., man. He is only 28 years old, right? So he's should be in his prime as a wide receiver. Of course, we all know former first-round pick for the Giants, and we all have seen the one-handed catch, right? That's how he got famous, right? And we all know about his hot rookie start in fantasy. He was the fantasy wide receiver 7 his rookie year, the fantasy wide receiver 5, the wide receiver.
He won me a league.
Yeah, man, he was so good. And since those first 3 seasons, man, he's not been ranked. He's not finished nearly as close, right? And that mostly reason number 1 is injuries, right? He's injuries. I'll throw up his player profiler, like injury tracker, and his body's multicolored, man. He is like, so for perspective, I say he's injury prone, right? He's struggled with injuries. Once this season has ended, so once 2020 has concluded, because he's missing this full season, I believe, with an ACL tear, he will have missed 42% of all the games the past 4 seasons. 40, that's almost half of 4 years due to injury, right? And the only time he played a full season was 2019, and he finished as the wide receiver 25. So he wasn't that top tier that we came to expect, right? During that season, last year, when he was finally healthy, only half of his games, he only scored 11 points or more on half of his games, and he only scored over 20 points twice, right? So now we're in 2020. He wasn't injured coming in, right? And we have that baller Stefanski offense that's coming down. And OBJ was just as boomer bust, man. Like reason number 1 I'm worried about OBJ is the injury. Reason number 2 is the targets, right? He averaged 11 targets per game in New York, right? He was being fed. In the 22 games he's played with Cleveland, he's averaging 8 targets per game, which is still solid, right? That's still pretty good, but it's not amazing, right? The Browns are second to last in pass attempts, right? Only behind the Ravens when it comes to the fewest pass attempts per game so far this season, right? He's currently on a second year in a 5-year, $90 million contract, and he should be healthy going at the start of the 2021 season. He's polarizing because he used to be a top 5 Dynasty wide receiver, right? When he was drafted, when he was going off, everyone had him ranked top 5 because you had to. Now he's barely in the top 30 in most Dynasty rankings, man. On Fantasy Pros, they have him behind Chase Claypool. They have him behind Julio Jones, Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton, Deontay Johnson are players they have him behind. So this is the question for you, man. Has the hate gone too far? Would you consider him a buy low, or where the heck does he belong? This is a guy that I'm not even sure where to rank because we know the talent, right? But now the injury risk and the targets, like where do you have him, right? Is he at least a top 30 wide receiver in Dynasty right now?
You have who's number 29th and on a random ranking?
I can pull it up. I'll pull up the Fantasy Pros. I have it in front of me right now.
This is my thing with Odell. Yeah, he's had issues with injuries, whatever, but he finally had his first season-ending injury, in terms of that ACL tear, and it was pretty. What was it? Week 7?
Yeah,
it was middle of season, right?
Yeah. So for context, OBJ is currently ranked on Fantasy Pros as the Dynasty wide receiver 29, and that is directly behind.
Wow.
Yeah, man. That's directly behind Deontay Johnson, directly behind DJ Chark, and directly behind Julio Jones. Those are the 3 guys in front of him. Yeah. So I don't know. I would personally right now take OBJ over Julio just because I'm not sure how many more years Julio has. But it's tough, man. It's tough. How do you value OBJ right now in Dynasty?
Well, I mean, he's not going to play until
2021.
And in October.
Well,
he's going to. He's gonna miss the first month of the season. If he doesn't, then if he actually is 100% healthy going into the season, I want him 1,000%.
Okay.
Because I don't think we've ever really seen, and I think we see the talent of him, but I don't think we have ever really seen OBJ get down to the nitty-gritty and be the best, fullest potential OBJ.
Interesting.
I think in New York I think he just distracted.
Yeah.
And didn't really like what's I'm looking for, like
didn't hit his potential. Didn't hit his peak.
Yeah, he wasn't working. You know, like how Antonio Brown was like always working all the time when he was in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we've seen that from OBJ. In terms of like him being 100% committed to football every single time.
Yeah.
No media, none of that. And so if he's playing week 1 or week 2 of the regular season next year, top 18 receiver.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I totally could see that. And again, he was allegedly injured last season. He did have surgery after the season. He finished the wide receiver 25, and the Browns struggled, right? And then I understand he has a large contract as well, and I'm not sure. I think his ceiling is kind of capped in Cleveland right now because they are a
definitely.
Team. But
definitely,
there's a lot of trade rumors out there. There's a lot of trade rumors for OBJ right now. So if he lands on a wide receiver needy team that maybe that he'll see slightly more targets, I mean, I have a hard time thinking of a landing space off the top of my head, but that at least makes him more intriguing, right, when it comes to a dynasty perspective. That's why I would take him over Julio Jones and Chase Claypool at this point.
Well, I think a team that would fit great for him, that would allow him to take time with his rehab, would be a team like the Dolphins.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Because you got Devontae Parker. Yeah, awesome. You got Mike. What's his name? Preston Williams.
Yeah.
You got Preston Williams, and don't know what you're getting there.
Yeah.
Don't know what you're getting there. You got Lynn Bowden, rookie. Mike Gesicki. Outside of that, and the Dolphins are in a position where they can allow him to just, rest and chill, and get himself right, because they're a 2 to 3, 4 year. I mean, the Dolphins are going to be one receiver away from having a really good offense.
Yeah, I agree.
Devontae Parker's awesome, but like they're just still going to be one receiver away from making it a complete offense. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that'd be a fun place.
Yeah, especially with Tua. Oh yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think his situation in Cleveland caps it more than anything. And I think Cleveland was better off finding out who they are as a team without him, because they're like, okay, we know we wanted to come into the season running the ball. That's why we paid Kareem Hunt. That's why we brought in Conklin to come play tackle from the Titans.
Oh yeah.
That's why we drafted tight ends. Those are things they want to do. They want to run the ball 30 times, 18-12 splits. They want their running backs to touch the ball 30 to 40 times a game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And which is nothing wrong with that, but it just caps in terms of fantasy.
Man.
Like, in terms of fantasy, it just it's just tough. It makes things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. No, I agree. So give him a rank, man. 1 from 10, OBJ. We just talked about his injuries in the past. We just talked about the targets, but his potential trade options. Only 28 years old. I mean, we all have seen the talent. What is your confidence in OBJ moving forward? And we could even translate this. Does that confidence ranking make him a potential buy low right now? Because especially after the injury and how he's been performing, I think you could go get OBJ for... I mean, if I had the option to trade Deontay Johnson right now for OBJ, I'd do it in a heartbeat, right? So if you can make...
Ironically, those two are on the same team.
Yeah, ironically, Trey has both of them. So where would you rank him, man? 1 through 10? Third. Okay, interesting. Below
3A and 3B.
Interesting.
Hollywood and OBJ.
Below Hollywood, though.
No. 3A, 3B. Same.
Okay. Same. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So you don't think he's a buy low right now then? You think, I mean, he's capped, he's struggled with injuries, his ceiling's capped. Do you think he should just kind of be where he's at right now?
No, I think OBJ owners are probably like, I'll take anything for him. Yeah. Anything decent for him. So I do think he's a buy low, but it's a buy low and like legitimately almost like, hey, I'm just going to throw him on my taxi squad for a year.
Oh, interesting. See what happens.
You know what I mean? And just see what happens. Unless if there is reports that he's going to play week 1, he's probably a 7 on this.
Okay, interesting.
But I don't think he's going to be playing. I think he's too much of a diva, if I'm being honest.
Well,
so unless if he legitimately buckles down and it's like, man, this is my last opportunity to play football, then he's a 3. But if he buckles down, I think he has. Dude, the talent is there.
Yeah, but you and I have talked about this before, right? And especially him being 28 years old, he'll be 29, of course, next season. That's how it works. And with him being on the Browns, you and I have talked about this before, man. It takes typically much longer than just a year for a player to come fully back from an ACL tear. Right?
Well, and like I said, I talked to physical therapists on the when I was in college, the sports medicine department, and they go, the years of thinking or the days of thinking that ACL injuries are 9 to 12 month recoveries are gone in terms of research. Research shows you can start playing, but you're not going to feel confident on your knee until about at the soonest 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah. And he's someone I feel really like. We've talked about this. Joe Burrow probably could be a solid passer in the pocket with a questionable knee, right? OBJ, what he does, his agility, his burst that he needs. I'm just saying, even if he does come back 2021, he might be limited. So I'm with you, man. I put him in that 3-4 range of confidence. And if you can get him for super cheap, what the heck, man? We know the talent. We know the upside if he gets traded. But not someone if I'm the owner, I'm probably holding, but not super, super excited about moving forward. Anyways, that's OBJ. Let's talk about another guy whose name is an acronym, a man who's on your team. And actually, I have a whole bunch of stats here. I have a little career arc, but I need you to talk to me about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH, for a little bit before I dive into what I have here, because I want to hear your thoughts, unfiltered, as the Clyde Edwards-Helaire owner.
It's wait and see.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. No one would have drafted in rookie drafts, not startup drafts, rookie drafts. No one would have drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire 1.01 ever during the offseason before the draft actually happened. Yeah. You know, like it was going to be Jonathan Taylor. It was going to be Cam Akers. Yeah. It was going to be CeeDee Lamb. You know, it was going to be Jerry Jeudy. It was going to be Joe Burrow. You know, it was not going to be CEH.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But when CEH got drafted to the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes wanted CEH, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's what you guys feel like your offense needs? Okay. But you have to remember, this is why I'm so torn on what I want to do. Because I want more picks, but I also want to see what happens with CEH.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So my issue with CEH is this year it was Le'Veon Bell came in. Le'Veon Bell, done. I mean, that ship has sailed, in my opinion. You will not see me drafting him ever.
Yeah.
But next year, Damian Williams will be coming back on his last year of the contract. Mm-hmm. So I don't think CEH is a buy or is a boom running back until year 3.
Yeah. Yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah.
And also, I don't know if do you know one of the linemen for the Chiefs, what he does during the offseason?
No.
He's a doctor.
Oh.
He got his medical degree while in the NFL.
What lineman?
He did during the offseason. Let me tell you.
Oh, I just looked up Chiefs lineman doctor and it popped up. Laurent Duvernay.
Yes, and he was a starter. He's a starter. But he opted out this year. Because he's a doctor. He felt he had a duty to go respond to COVID. And I was like, dude, respect.
Wow.
Like, respect. Like, doctors are needed. I go, okay, respect. So he goes, he's not gone. Or he's gone. They sign Osemele, Osmele, Kalike, something like that.
Yeah.
And he goes down early in the season. So the Chiefs' offensive line, from a I'm going to run it down your throat type of ordeal, is decimated.
Yeah. Oh,
decimated.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that he is, and that's why you're seeing a bunch of Tyreek Hill stuff, and teams next year are going to be like, how are we stopping this? That's why you're seeing a lot of Travis Kelce, because last year Damian Williams running backs in Kansas City saw a lot of carries.
Yeah.
You know, they were more committed to running the ball. This year, they're like, all right, Patrick, just go do your thing, man.
Yeah.
You know, just let's just go do it. But they, you know, they have the running back that they want. The offensive line can only get better next year.
Yeah.
The passing game, I feel like, is a crime to say that it could regress.
Yeah.
But it could, you know, their passing game, you know, teams might scheme it better, you know, might be more prepared for it for, I don't know how, but, you know, but I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a solid RB2.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think he's going to be anything more, I think you're going to be disappointed.
Interesting. So that's
at least going into next year.
Okay.
With Damian Williams coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally see that, man. And from my perspective, there was so much hype this past offseason, right? He gets drafted by the Chiefs, 21 years old, and everyone automatically says that he is a top 5 Dynasty running back. He was drafted in the middle of your redraft league, most likely. I mean, his combine wasn't amazing, like you said. I personally believe that both Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift are better athletes. Even Antonio Gibson, right, might be arguably a better athlete. Right, but Patrick Mahomes specifically asked for him. He balled out at LSU. He's shifty. He's got that low center of gravity. He's got an amazing receiving ability. And then Bruce Arians comes out and says that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is better than Brian Westbrook, right, who had amazing seasons under Andy Reid. And the reason why people were so excited about Damian Williams is that's a Freudian slip right there, about CEH is they just won everyone asked about, Patrick Mahomes asked for him. He's on that amazing Chiefs offense that just won the Super Bowl. But 2, Andy Reid has such a long history of successful fantasy running backs, man. Like,
I take back what I say, but you can continue. But I take back what I say.
Interesting. Okay, I'll go through this.
Yeah,
and I'll have
keep going. Keep going.
But Brian Westbrook, man, he never finished outside the top 7, right? When it comes to fantasy finishes, when he was under Andy Reid, he finished as the RB1 twice, right? LaShawn McCoy was a top tier fantasy running back with the Eagles. Jamal Charles was the RB1 and the RB7. Kareem Hunt was the RB5 and the RB8, right? He has such an extensive history with successful running backs, and most of that's due to his involvement in the passing game, right? So he comes in, and right now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, despite his perceived fantasy value being up and down, he's still the RB13 on the season, right? And the big shift was when Le'Veon joined the team. In weeks 1 through 6, CEH was averaging 15.9 fantasy points per game. That's solid, right? That's a solid low-end running back 1. With Le'Veon on the field, CEH is averaging 11.9, so that's 4 points less per game. So he's not really performing from a fantasy perspective with Le'Veon on the field. He's not seeing as many snaps as well. But that all being said, man, he is still 12th in the league in rush attempts and is averaging 4.3 targets per game. Right, so he's not seeing the targets, he's not seeing the snaps, he's not putting up those big boom games, but he's still getting volume. Right, he's still seeing 4.3 targets on that Chiefs offense, man. That still has a lot of fantasy value. And again, he is only 21 years old and did not have an offseason to practice. He's a rookie, right? So the Chiefs are currently bottom 10 in rush attempts, right? And because of that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 24th in the league in red zone carries. Right now, let's look at 2021. Does Le'Veon Bell stay? Does Williams come back on that last year of contract? That's what we're expecting. But also Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson are both on 1-year contracts. So they might stay for another year. But if some of those peripheral wide receivers start disappearing, maybe they need to start involving Clyde even more in the pass game. Maybe they give him more carries, man. He's their future, and he's only 21 years old with this amazing organization. So I agree with you that he's most likely, with Damian Williams, going to be middle to high tier running back 2 going into next season. But at least from a dynasty perspective, it's hard for me to rank him outside of the top 12 because of where he's at, if not even top 10, because of the team he plays on, because of all that. Yeah. So anyways, what do you think about that, man? Did I just ruin my opportunity to put on Clyde? Because
Well, yeah, you had me for about 90 seconds, and I was like, wait, hold up, let me walk this back.
Yeah.
Because he only has 4 rushing touchdowns this season.
Yeah, man.
He's only scored 5 touchdowns. But he plays, he just played Miami. Miami's good defense. Had 75% of snaps, 16 carries, 32 yards. Not good.
Yeah.
But getting targets out of the backfield, 6 targets, 5 catches, 59 yards. That's where he makes his money, is in a PPR. Oh, yeah. In a standard league, it's like, maybe Clyde's not the answer.
Hunt did it, man. That's how Kareem Hunt did it. That's how Jamal Williams did it. That's how LaShawn McCoy did it, man. Andy Reid gets his running backs the ball, and that's why they become PPR monsters, man. Like, they get those targets.
And I think as the offensive line develops, I think as he gets an offseason to, because you're right, man. The Chiefs run a complex offense.
They do.
It is not for the dumb. No. It's not for the lack of IQ people.
And a poor rookie coming in with no offseason, oh man.
Yeah, no, you got a solid point. That's why they were like, maybe we need a vet like Le'Veon Bell, just because we don't have one. And it'd be nice if if Clyde goes down, it's like, well, okay, well, what do? We don't have a guy that can catch the ball in the backfield that we're confident in.
Yeah.
But he scored once week 1. He's only scored under 10 points in our league twice.
Yeah. See,
he scored under 10 against the Jets. Against the Jets, he scored under 10.
Man, he's still the RB13 on the season. He's still performing, but his public perspective is so low, man. You could argue he's an excellent buy low candidate right now.
He is. I mean, as the owner, I am I'm willing to shop CEH, and as we talk about it more, I'm like, man, I might be making a mistake.
I should have not have brought this up. I should not.
Here's the thing, and this just gets into my draft strategy. There are, I got a handful of guys that I want, and I have to realize who I can and who I cannot ship away.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people get every single year, is they sell rookies after their rookie year, not realizing and appreciating that they're rookies.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're not supposed to be all world.
Yeah.
They're rookies.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Confidence now, though?
Yeah, confidence. But while you're writing that down, I'm going to ask you one of my difficult questions that I've written down for you. In the next 3 years, not including this year, so 2021, 2022, 2023, in the next 3 years, do you think that we see a top 3 running back finish from a fantasy perspective from CEH in the next 3 years? Right. So do you think he has that upside over the next 3 years to finish top 3 in fantasy?
Give me 30 seconds.
Okay. If you can have all this, we'll put the little Jeopardy music in the background.
That's awesome.
Because, Patrick Mahomes asked for him, man. Mahomes is going to be there for a long time. Give him a couple of years. And again, maybe his ceiling is capped going into next season with Damian Williams there. But I think he's talented enough, and you give him more time to learn the offense and develop. I think people who sell Clyde Edwards-Helaire now will really, really be regretting it halfway through the 2022 season. And I wish I wasn't saying that, because I really want you to trade him to me, and I would love to work something with you, but I don't. But for those watching, I need to speak the truth, man. I'm not going to lie to them, to lie to the people just to get Clyde on my team. Even though I definitely thought about it for a second of not putting him on this list. All right, man. What do you think? Do you see?
No, yeah, I do see that happening once.
What? Yeah, you thinking 2022, 2023?
Yeah, not next year, but the year after.
Yeah, it's tough, man. That's tough. So that all being said, wrap it up for me. 1 through 10. Clyde is such a polarizing player right now. Where do you have him?
He's an 8.
Okay, I like it.
So below Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Above Lamar.
Awesome. So now, did I sway you, man? Are you no longer shopping Clyde?
It's just, I think, because I think everyone in the league at some point is going to realize Noah wants more picks.
Yeah.
And is going to, and I obviously, of course I do. Because they're about, like I said, I got my first round pick, I got 2 seconds and a third. So I got 4 picks in 3 rounds.
Yeah.
More than anyone else. But I only got 4 picks in 3 rounds. And there are about 5 or 6 guys that I want.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm trying to think of it. from your team perspective, I love the running backs on your team. I'll even throw it up on the screen so people can know what I'm talking about. I'm actually going to pull up your team real fast just to talk a hypothetical strategy. I like your running back core, right, man? You got Saquon coming back healthy. You like Cam Akers is there. He's looking good down the road. Rashad Penny coming back. And then, of course, you have Ronald Jones, who you and I are very optimistic for moving forward. If Team Kaludis, right, Nick Kaludis, whose running backs are kind of off and on, right, who's making that playoff push, but his best running back right now is Austin Eckler, and his second is Chris Carson. Needs a running back, needs a young running back. If he were to offer you his late first-round pick, would you take that for Clyde in the draft?
Again, it would have to depend on who's there and what I'm getting.
Yeah.
And it has to depend. I mean, so much of it is subjective, but I consider it. I have to, because like I said, there are so many players in college right now that I want on my team. Yeah. But we'll see what happens when it comes to what team they're drafted on. Obviously, that plays. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not the 1.01 if you don't like if you. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not the 1.01 if he's not on the Chiefs. Whatever running back the Chiefs drafted last year was going to be the 1.01.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I agree with you, man. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what you would switch that for, because you'd have to feel confident in your running backs right now, because I'm not the biggest fan of this upcoming rookie running back class. Right, I think there's a big I like Travis Etienne, and I love Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris might be my RB1 going into this 2021 draft, depending on where they all land. And again, I know you know some sleepers probably better than I do, and you know this draft much better than I do. But if I was you, I'd have to feel much more confident in either this upcoming rookie class or the running backs you have before I could sell Clyde. But again,
based on team alone, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Based on position alone. No, I totally get that.
Okay, so we have Clyde an 8. I think I swayed you. I think you came in a 6, or a 6 and 7, and I bumped you up to an 8, which is probably bad if I was trying to get him. Because probably in this conversation, I was going to try to send you my second round pick for CEH, but now I don't know if I can afford him. All right, guys, let's talk about a player that defines polarizing, a guy that I have on my roster who keeps me up at night, and that's Juju Smith-Schuster. Right, Juju Smith-Schuster, former second-round pick, plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers, comes into the NFL young, man. 21 years old. He's currently trending on TikTok. The man's a TikTok star, which I don't know how you calculated that into Dynasty value. But he put up a 1,400 receiving yard season at the young age of 22, right? So he was balling out super young. And I remember right after that season, right, when he was, again, only 22 years old, everyone had him as a top 3 Dynasty wide receiver, if not even higher. Then Antonio Brown leaves the Steelers. Big Ben gets hurt. And everyone wanted to see if Juju could still perform, right? It was see if he could be that wide receiver 1 on the team that everyone was expecting him to be. And it really just didn't happen, man. It really just didn't happen. Like last season, I get it. Big Ben was hurt, right? The quarterback play was atrocious. But he played 12 games and averaged 9.4 fantasy points per game. That's like outside of the top 45 at least, right? So now he's played a full season up to this point. Big Ben is back. He's currently the wide receiver 19 on the season. But all of his production, man, is coming from targets and touchdowns, right? He has 8 or more targets in 5 of the last 8 games, right? So he's seeing a decent amount of volume, and he scored 7 touchdowns on the season. Despite being 19th, right now 19th in the league in targets, he is 38th in receiving yards. So he's getting a lot of volume. He's scoring touchdowns, but he's not putting up those receiving yards. And he's playing the vast majority right now of his snaps out of the slot. He is actually, I believe, I'll have to look this up, but he's actually, of all the wide receivers in the league, he's played the most snaps from the slot, and that's where he thrives, and he's the wide receiver 19 on the season. So, I mean, man, like, he's a free agent going into next season. He's currently 24, I believe. And the reality is that the Steelers are currently projected to be 29th in projected cap space. right? Meaning that they're going to have to cut some people to be able to keep the doors open there. They have Chase Claypool, they have Deontay Johnson, and James Washington, right? Who are all balling out right now. They have a really strong wide receiver core. I don't think that Juju stays with them, right? And there's a lot of potential exciting landing spots for Juju down the road. Again, only 24 and talented, in my opinion, as the owner, right? And if he lands, let's say hypothetically he lands on the Jags, right? With DJ Chark on the outside, Justin Fields under center, all of a sudden he's got some legitimate value there. Dude, he could land on the Patriots, who are third in projected cap space. Edelman on his way out, give Cam a big wide receiver to throw to down the middle. The Washington football team, plenty of cap space. They really don't have any weapons outside of McLaurin. And they went after Amari Cooper before he signed that big contract. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different places that he could potentially land. So before we even talk about his dynasty value, what do you think where do you think Juju will be playing in 2021?
Hopefully with the Packers.
Oh, interesting. I
think the Packers are a slot receiver away from being a Super Bowl champion.
I don't hate it. Now, they are currently projected 28th in cap space right now. They'd have to make some cuts or move things around on that front. I'm not sure they could afford it. Maybe he takes a pay cut, man. Maybe Juju says he wants to
either that or Juju's going to be like on your team, on your Patriots team. You know, I see the Patriots taking a guy like Juju. I think Juju would love to work with Bill Belichick. I just feel like those two would get along so well. I don't know why. I just get that vibe.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know, especially because of how Juju, like his presence on social media, I don't know if that really meshes with Belichick.
But I don't think he's a diva with it.
Yeah. I don't know.
He seems pretty chill about it.
Yeah, he does. That's like, I do like Juju as the individual, right? He gets a lot of flack right now for his TikTok life, but I mean, he just seems like a stand-up, like genuine good guy. Like I remember his rookie season, he was like, I forget what it was, but he was helping the homeless somewhere out there in Pittsburgh or something. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, and some kid asked him to prom, and he went to prom with some kid. That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
He just hasn't let the fame get to his head.
Yeah.
In my opinion, from my perspective.
So, here's a question for you. Where do you think he's more valuable in Dynasty and Fantasy, right? If the Steelers pay him and he stays with the Steelers for the next 5 years, or if he lands somewhere else?
Lands somewhere else.
Okay, so he is currently the wide receiver 17 on Fantasy Pros, right? Again, he used to be the wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. He is currently ranked in the range of T. Higgins, of Jerry Jeudy, of Keenan Allen, right? And again, former top 3 Dynasty wide receiver. Where would you rank Juju moving forward, right? Would you have him in that range? Would you have him higher? Or do you think he can't play out of the slot or can't play anywhere else outside of the slot, and then he'll just be kind of a mediocre wide receiver 2 for the rest of his career?
No, I think he's top 12.
Really?
Depending on what team he goes to, yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can see he's a player for me, his value will dramatically change depending where he lands, right? Dramatically change.
Totally.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. Again, another team that could use Juju. The Dolphins.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they got plenty of cap space, man.
Exactly. He goes on the Dolphins. I'm like, dude, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. No, I totally. And again, I can't stress this enough, right? This is why I drafted him so early in our startup draft, is that he has already put up baller seasons, and it was not even 24 at the time. Like, he was still 23 and still producing like that. I mean, most wide receivers from a fantasy perspective but they hit their prime at like 25, 26, and he's not even there yet. So we'll see, man. There might be bright days ahead. So give me a ranking, man. 1 from 10. Where would you put Juju moving forward?
Quick question. We've had Russell Wilson, Clyde, Lamar, Juju, Hollywood, and OBJ.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then this is updated. Juju 6.
Oh, okay. Okay, nice. Okay.
Hold up. With a big asterisk by it, as in asterisk equals landing spot.
Okay. I like it.
Because, dude, he could be number 10 on this list. He could be at the top of this list, depending on where he goes.
Oh, man, if he lands with the Packers or even the Patriots, man, I think his value will skyrocket. But, yeah, again, we'll see. We will definitely see. All right, let's wrap up our last polarizing player. And then we have then we're going to go through half the NFL and talk just real quick on these quick polarizing players. But let's talk about our last one. And that's none other than James Robinson, and running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This past offseason, he was an undrafted free agent out of Illinois State. And, man, I'll be honest with you, I was very embarrassingly late to the James Robinson hype train, man. I just remember this craziness happening out of Jacksonville where Fournette was let go, Raquel Armstead was getting hyped up, but then he got put on the COVID list. Divine Ozigbo was struggling with injury. Then you have Chris Thompson and Dario Agumbawale, who are both really just pass catching backs out of the backfield. So I saw such a messy situation. I wasn't really familiar with Robinson. And I totally slept on him, man. Not someone I was really expecting much of. I feel like his signing and him becoming the starter kind of went under the radar. And, dude, they're just giving him the ball, man. The Jags just keep feeding him. He leads the league right now in running back opportunity share on a team. James Robinson has 85% of all running back touches on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Every time a running back touches the ball, it's pretty much always James Robinson receiving and rushing, man. He's third in the league in carries. He's seventh in the league in targets. He's sixth in routes run, and he's 11th in red zone touches. And it's not like he's just getting the ball and falling over, man. He's like how Fournette seemed to have last season. James Robinson is producing. He is third in the league in rushing yards with 1,035 rushing yards. He's eighth in receiving yards amongst running backs. And I don't know. I know the Jags games are kind of boring to watch sometimes, but Robinson is electric with the ball in his hands, man. The Jags are fifth in points scored, right? So very weak offense, and have had very inconsistent quarterback play. James Robinson is fourth in the league in evaded tackles, 10th in breakaway runs, so runs of 15 yards or more, and is fourth in yards created, meaning it's just him out there trucking dudes or juking dudes, man. And most importantly, he passes the eye test. He's doing it statistically. He's getting the volume. He looks good doing it, and he is the fourth running back on the season. If you would have told me coming into this season that James Robinson was going to be the RB4 come the end of the season, I would have told you you're high, man. That's crazy. There's no way.
We go back to our segment like we were doing this before the season. I think James Robinson's gonna be a top 5.
Yeah.
Am I high?
Yeah. You're big, dude. There's no way. There's just no way he's that good. So let's look at it from a dynasty perspective, right? The big argument and the reason why people are hesitant to rank James Robinson where he deserves to be ranked as a top 12, if not top 10, if not top 8 dynasty running back is that there's no draft capital, right? The team is not draft capital-wise invested in him, right? So it's possible that they replace him. Not replace him, but it's possible they bring in someone else, and there's this weird running back by committee. It's possible they draft someone on day 2, day 3 of the NFL draft just to get some people in the mix. But I don't think that happens, man. I really don't think that happens. I think that the Jags have so many other holes to fill that running back is the last they need to worry about, especially with how well Robinson's performing. And you and I talked about this the other day. All Jags players have really high upsides right now, in my opinion, right, man? James Robinson, I'll summarize all my thoughts in this sentence. James Robinson, the undrafted free agent, is the RB4 on the season at 22 years old in a offseason with COVID behind on a terrible offense, right? So you have COVID, you have the fact that he was undrafted, you have his young age as a rookie, and you have the struggles of the offense, right? He's still the RB4 on the season. Now Justin Fields comes in, right? That as we're expecting. Maybe that doesn't happen, but let's say Justin Fields comes in and they add a wide receiver in free agency. Right? If both those things happen and they don't mess with the running back room, what's stopping James Robinson from being a locked and loaded top 5 running back in 2021, man? What's stopping him if they don't bring in anyone else? Right? So Fantasy Pros has him ranked as the RB20 behind Kareem Hunt, behind Cam Akers, and behind Aaron Jones. Right? Where This is the question, right? We have the two outcomes. They bring in another guy, they invest some draft capital as a running back by committee, or he's a top 5 running back as he's been this past season with everything working against him. On that spectrum, right, what do you think is the most likely outcome of this? Are you counting out how many running backs you have ranked ahead of him?
No, I was counting out how many touchdowns he scored this year.
Yeah, man, he's getting it done. He's got 11 red zone touches, man, and he's got he's got 10th in the league in breakaway runs. Right, he's getting it done, man, on a terrible offense.
I mean, repeat your question.
Okay, so we have the two outcomes. Either they bring in another running back, which is everyone's scared of this, right? Everyone's scared that Raquel Armstead's going to come back, or they're going to draft somebody and it's a running back by committee. Or you have Justin Fields coming in. He's a workhorse as he's been this season, and it's a top 5 running back. Which side do you think is most likely to come?
I think. Do I have to pick one or the other? I think it's both.
You think it's somewhere in the middle?
I think someone comes on in.
Yeah.
But you don't cut Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
On his last year of his rookie contract, essentially, if you don't have another option. If you're not like, yeah, this is the dude.
Yeah. They
cut the 4th overall pick in a draft that the Jags took Fournette.
So do you think that the Jags knew what they had in Robinson when they cut Fournette? Because he wasn't named the starter until Armstead and Ozigbo were like COVID or were opted out because of COVID.
Well, I think they had to at least they had to feel comfortable with their room between the 3 of them. Yeah. You know, you don't just feel comfortable with 2 of them and say no. You keep Fournette if you only feel comfortable with 2.
Yeah.
But to feel comfortable with all 3, it's like, all right, why are we keeping Leonard Fournette? Let's see what these young guys have. We know what Leonard has. Mm-hmm. So, personally, I mean, you can try to sell him, but you're not going to get what you want and what he's worth because no one's going to pay that. Because it's like, dude, there's no draft bond. There's no draft. Yeah.
I think he's a buy right now, man. I really do. Like, I think you could trade if I could trade a second or like a mid to late second round draft in this draft, I would do it for James Robinson. And I know how stacked this class is. So let's say I'll ask you my final question, and we'll get the confidence level. Would you rank him if in April they draft Justin Fields? And Justin Fields is the starting quarterback who's a baller, right? And we all know Raquel Armstead's come back. We know that they might be another running back in the mix. Just with Fields on the team and just with what James Robinson's been able to do this season, statistically speaking, would you automatically have James Robinson as a low-tier Dynasty running back 1, right? With that J.K. Dobbins, with the DeAndre Swift, with the Antonio Gibson tier?
No.
Okay.
I'm hoping to have James Robinson in a redraft Dynasty.
Yeah, startup draft.
And like the 4th round.
Okay. So he's still
4th, maybe 5th. Yes, running backs for sure. And it's not because I'm doubting him. It's just the Jags as a team are going to have such a learning curve next year.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They have to run the ball, otherwise they won't move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
So I think next year he takes a step back on the basis that hopefully they have a better quarterback that can spread the ball around. So he just won't – I don't think the volume's going to be there, even if he's the only running back there.
Yeah.
Because they have to run the – sometimes they just have to run the ball. Like, especially early in the game, they have to run the ball because, like, dude, they can't throw.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
you know
I mean, if Justin Fields is there, man, they might be able to. Right, if they add
that's what I'm saying. Like his touches probably just go down. Like there's no way he does this next year. And if he does this next year, then I'll just admit that I'm wrong and I'll go buy a jersey.
I like it. I like that because I think he can replicate this. His carries might be a little lower, right? But I think he'll see just as many targets, and I think he'll I think he'll continue to get it done, man. All right, so 1 through 10. It sounds like your confidence ranks a little bit lower than mine is. Where would you put a James Robinson 1 through 10 on your confidence level?
6.
All right, bump Juju up.
So I have 9 or 10 Russell Wilson, 9 CEH, 8 Lamar, 7 asterisk Juju, 6 Robinson, clear tier break.
Yeah.
Hollywood OBJ.
Okay. All of a sudden, guys, you're really starting to be concerned about. I totally get that. Yeah, man, I totally get that. That's awesome. That is awesome. These are, again, and I've said this a million times on this channel, dynasty value is so subjective. I personally believe that James Robinson is the future of this team when it comes from the running back position. I think he's someone that you need to go get. I do not think that Armstead's going to come in and compete for carries. I just don't, man. Robinson's been too good, and he's only 22 years old. So someone, like, and no one wants a piece of the Jacks. It's someone you can probably buy real cheap. All right, man, let's wrap this up. I've got probably about 10 players here. I'm just going to throw out their names. I'm going to throw out where they're currently ranked on Fantasy Pros in Dynasty in just a positional Dynasty ranking. And the question to you is, a year from now, a full calendar year from now, so December 2021, do you think their individual value will go up or down, and how confident are you in that happening? So let's start it off with one of your guys real quick. No explanation needed really here, just up, down, and confidence level. DJ Moore, right? It's December 2021. DJ Moore is currently ranked the 12th Dynasty wide receiver 12 right now on Fantasy Pros. Where will he be ranked in 2021 December? 18, okay, down. So what's your confidence level in him trending downwards? 1 through 10.
10 being he's going to be awesome, 1 being he's going to be...
No, 10, a guarantee that he's going to trend down, and 1 being like, I don't know, man, his value could go anywhere. It's just exclusively confidence level.
Yeah. 3.
3, okay, so you still think he has some upside to him?
Well, yeah, because that's a brand new offense this year that they're breaking in.
Absolutely. So, Good. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
And the thing is with DJ Moore, I know you're trying to make this brief, but the thing with DJ Moore is he has been open so many times, just has not gotten the ball. So I'm curious to see how that gets adapted this offseason. But Joe Brady could get sniped.
Oh, man,
so I'm curious to see what happens with Joe Brady.
Yeah. No, I hope he does.
He's like the new Sean McVay, you know?
Honestly, man, especially if they bring in a quarterback, too, to take a year. If they can bring in Zach Wilson or a Trey Lance and have him sit behind Teddy B for a year and learn, oh, man, I'm loving that Panthers offense come 2022, man. I'm loving that Panthers. All right, next one. I'm in the same boat with you. He's currently the wide receiver 12. I think he's going to be lower than that come next season. I think he's going to be in that 15 to 20 range. And I've got about a 5, probably 5 confidence. I think that's decently likely to happen, but I still think he has a little bit of upside for the reasons you mentioned. All right, man, the real polarizing one. Carson Wentz, currently the Dynasty quarterback 14, December 2021. Do you think he'll be ranked higher or lower than that?
Same.
Okay, you think he'll be in that range. Do you think he'll still be with the Eagles? It's tough to say. That contract is fat. It's a PHAT, fat contract.
Yeah, I do think he'll still be with the Eagles.
Interesting.
I don't think they're going to get a buyer on that contract.
It depends on how I think it all depends on how Jalen Hurts finishes the season, right? If he's really balling out and they're really confident that he's the future for them, then I could see them being less stingy with what they want for Carson Wentz. But it all comes down to that. I'm with you, man. I actually have him trending down a little bit. I think he's very likely to be more like, again, quarterback 15 to 20 range, because I'm expecting Jalen Hurts to continue to ball with them, and I'm not sure where he's going to land. All right, man. Next question for you. Jimmy Garoppolo, right? You and I play in a lot of 2-quarterback leagues. Really? Okay, trending down. You and I play in a lot of 2-quarterback leagues. He's currently only the quarterback 23, right? And he'll have Kittle.
Wow.
He'll have Brandon Ayuk, and he'll have Deebo Samuel next season. So he's got great weapons. That offense is fantastic, but he's the quarterback 23. And if you think he's trending up, okay.
In comparison to quarterback 23, he's a top 15 quarterback next year.
Okay, interesting. So that leads to my second question. Do you think that he's going to still be their starting quarterback? You don't think they're going to bring in one of like a Jameis Winston or something like that?
No. Okay. No, I don't. I think their money is sunk into there, and he knows that offense really well, and that they're going to ride out this contract with him, and then they'll go. Because even on their Super Bowl run, their best receiver outside of Kittle was Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
You got it. Jalen Hurd out, Debo, in terms of availability.
Yeah.
And then now you have all those guys coming back healthy now later in the season, but he's out. So it's like it's really a toss-up. So, but no, I think when all those pieces finally come, they have the pieces. They just need to finally come together. When the pieces come together, things will roll. As much as I don't like Garoppolo, I think he's what holds that team back. He's a top 15 quarterback.
Okay.
Top 12 quarterback next year.
Oh, interesting. You go as far as the top 12. Wow. Yeah, I think he's trending up, right? I think a year from now he'll be up. I think he's probably like the quarterback 16 or something a year from now. And again, this is Dynasty ranking. This is not necessarily where he finishes next season. It's just where he's ranked in Dynasty. So I think he's like 16, 17. But probably still in that late teens range, but still trending up, man. Here's one that's on everyone's mind. And we need to talk about this probably a little bit more in depth, but that's Ezekiel Elliott. Right? Ezekiel Elliott, he is currently the Dynasty running back 10, and he started off the year amazing when Dak Prescott was under center. But since then, man, he has been anything but amazing. What is he? I'm going to pull up his page right now. He's getting up there in age. He has that big contract. If Dak is back next season, do you think he's back to being a locked and loaded top 5 guy, or what do you think?
No. I think it just depends on how healthy that offensive line can come back.
Okay. Yeah.
But no, I top 10 running back next year, assuming that offensive line's healthy.
Okay, so
again, another team that's kind of breaking in a new offense.
Yeah.
Kellen Moore's coming back again, so they kept the offensive coordinator, but breaking in new schemes, breaking in new ideals. So, but I still think he's at least for the next year or two.
Okay, interesting. I think a year from now, I don't think he's going to be a top 10 running back anymore. And I understand that Dak Prescott's coming, or top 10 dynasty running back, because I understand that Dak Prescott's coming back and this offensive line will be healthier. And I understand he has the contract. I just don't. He's not passing the eye test for me anymore. Watching him run out there, he's looking slower. Tony Pollard is looking more explosive than he is. Since Dak Prescott got injured, he's the RB25 on the season. So he's just been slow without Dak. And I mean, you have all these rookies that we're excited about, these rookie running backs that are coming to their second year. And then you have, the class, Najee Harris, that you and I talked about, and Etienne, who are he has his cult followers, right? There's these rookies coming in that people are excited for. I would not be surprised if in a year from now, Zeke's more of a top 15 dynasty running back, but not a top 10. That's what I have. All right, man. Chris Godwin, currently the dynasty wide receiver 9. Right? Where would you, a year from now, you think his dynasty value will increase? Interesting. All right, why is that?
Top 4. Either he gets on a new team or you get year 2 of Tom Brady.
Okay.
And he's just had injury. It just hasn't had injury luck this year.
Yeah, it's been tough for him. Interesting. It's funny you say that because I also have him trending up because I think he's going to land somewhere else. Or it's kind of a win-win scenario. Either he lands somewhere else and they pay him so he's the man, or he stays with Tampa Bay and he has another offseason with Brady and he'll really continue to get it. So okay, I could totally see that. Again, he's still young, man. So a year from now, I could see him being top 5. Absolutely. I got 2 more guys for you, then we'll wrap it up. This one's another one that I had a hard time gauging value, and that's Tyler Lockett. And Tyler Lockett, currently the dynasty wide receiver 24. Where would you have him a year from now? Really? Oh, okay, interesting. Why is that?
Yeah, dude, I can't have Russell Wilson at 10 and not at 10 confidence and not have one of his receivers trending up. I regret taking DJ Chark over Tyler Lockett every day. Interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
Another big boom bust player, but dude, that guy, when he's got to play, he's a I don't want to say a bye week fill in, but he's a great wide receiver 4 on a dynasty team.
Yeah.
Okay, this week I start. You got to be okay with starting him some weeks and sitting him other weeks.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to Tyler Lockett.
I agree with you, and I agree with you. You combine that to the fact that he's more of a fill-in, and you combine the fact that he is 28 years old and clearly the second seat now when it comes to targets behind DK Metcalf.
I want him.
I just don't think he's top 24 anymore, man. I just don't think he's top 24. Guys, I guess you just said it, but I mean, actually, now that I'm looking at the list, there's not too many names that I would automatically take over him. But you do have like the DJ Charks of the world. I mean, OBJ, Debo Samuel, like these guys. And then you have a lot of young guys behind him as well that I could see taking that next step, like a Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, who's way down the list, but these younger guys that might take that next step. And then you just add this stacked, rookie wide receiver class as well, right? You add Devonta Smith and you add Jamar Chase, and I mean, we could go on and on and on. Rashad Bateman, all these guys that I'm so excited for this rookie class, man. I can't even put into words. I'm so excited. Anyways, all right. So I say he's trending down, but you still say he's trending. But a year from now, he'll be above, ranked higher than that.
He should be.
Okay.
At least.
Okay.
Is ranked as in like how many points he scored for the year, or what Fantasy Pros has him ranked as?
Just what the Dynasty community would rank Tyler Lockett as in a Dynasty ranking.
Well, I think he's probably going to be lower, but I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be extremely disrespectful.
Interesting. All right, man. You'll have to reach out to. Again, I keep trying to connect you and Kaludis to make some trades, and he'll probably be looking for CEH. I'll bet you can get a couple picks and lock it for CEH. Can definitely make that happen. All right, man. Last one for you. Polarizing, to say the least. Mark Andrews. We've talked about a lot of Ravens today. He is the Dynasty tight end 3. Does not leave a lot of margin for error, man. Tight end 3. Do you think in a year from now, the Dynasty community will still have him ranked as a top 3 Dynasty tight end?
No, yes, but no. He's still behind Kelsey. He's still behind Kittle. He's still behind Waller.
Interesting, even due to the age gap between him and Waller in Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean the age. I mean he's younger than all 3 of those other guys, other than maybe Kittle.
Yeah. I mean, and those other guys, they're just seeing mad volume. That's what it really comes down to.
That's what I'm saying. They're receivers, man. And Kittle's hurt. Kelsey is Gronk without all the injuries.
Yeah.
And Darren Waller.
Physical ability. Kelsey does.
Ability of what?
I feel like, as a Patriots fan, Gronk really relied on just being a freak of nature, right? Where he's slamming people. You can't tackle him. You got to dive at his ankles to try to get him down if you're a safety. I feel like Kelsey's a little bit better of a route runner, right? I really do.
Oh, much more finesse.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're and that probably is why he's getting less injured, man. Honestly, that's probably why that's all happening. So you'd say he's trending. I also have him trending down, man. All right, man. That is it. I'm exhausted, man. That was a lot of players we just addressed. Guys, thank you for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit that like button. The more views, the more subscribers we get, just the more videos we're going to continue to pump out. Interact with us on social media. Go follow me on Instagram at fantasy.football.buff. Send us trade offers you're thinking about. Send us screenshots of your team, and we'll review it on the channel, guys. But that all being said, man, that's all for me. Do you have anything else you want to wrap it up with?
Thanks if you made it this far. I appreciate it. If you guys got any moving into the offseason, if there's anyone that you want us to talk about, or you have any opinions of your own and you want to I guess you could say write us and kind of give us your opinion on a guy and want to know what we think, this and that. I mean, I'll let you guys, I'm not, me and Josh are in the same league, so it's hard for me to be like, yeah, this is who I like. But if you DM Josh,
yeah,
or and he lets me know who you guys are thinking about, I watch a lot of college football, so there are a lot. I mean, I have a list of probably 5 guys for sure I want, 12 guys I would definitely take on my team right now, no doubt. So just let us know what you guys want. If not, we're just gonna keep doing our thing. Let me know if you like the whiteboard. I like the whiteboard, so we're gonna see what happens.
As soon as our rookie draft ends, we're going to expose that list, and we'll finally be able to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
This has been the top polarizing players. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see you next time. Peace.